Hey everybody, Dr. Dave Marquis here, and I wanted to go over some fundamental things that people should all have in their hip pocket for their own well-being on the home front. I have 4 kids, and as such, I've dealt with a lot of kid stuff over the years. My oldest is in his early 20s now, and my youngest is 14, so I'm beyond the sleepless nights for those kid purposes, and now I have sleepless nights for other issues. Anybody with teenagers or 20-somethings understands what I mean by that. Yeah, it's just, I don't think parents ever get to a point where they actually sleep well. It's just perpetual. As long as you're loving your kids, there's always something going on there. Anyhow, back to the health side of things. There's some common things that everyone should be prepared to deal with on the health front. I want you to think about when you hear a child say, "I'm not feeling well," what is typically the first thing that you do? It's usually you reach out and touch their head, right? You're just checking their temperature. And most people understand that, okay, I can sense some temperature gradients with my hand. It's a pretty useful tool. And we shake other people's hands. Sometimes we feel that they're colder than us, or we might be colder than them. Same thing is true of the forehead. And if somebody's starting to break a temperature, they're past 98.6, and they get into that low 100 range, then yeah, you could usually feel a difference there. So what do you do with a fever? Is that a bad thing? Why do we have fevers? Well, first of all, fevers are the body's natural process to help it to eradicate an infection. And the temperature of the body elevates to literally try and break down viruses and bacteria. And a fever is only bad if it exceeds a temperature gradient for a long enough period of time, and then it can be detrimental. But by and large, you actually want to kind of nurse a fever. You want to allow it to run its course as long as it doesn't get out of hand. So for young children, infants, those are the ones that you want to be most careful for. Like for the first 3 to 6 months, you really don't want their temperature to get above like 100.6, 101, and that's when you want to call your pediatrician and get them on board. As you get older, you're past the age of 1 and into your toddler years, you can get up to 102, and it's a red flag right there where you want to make sure that you're controlling it, not allowing it to get any higher. But it's something that most people can handle at home, and there's different ways that you can do that, and I'm going to talk about fever-reducing methods in a second. As we get older than that, you can get up to 103.5-ish. You really don't want to hit 104 without seeking medical attention. So there's certain temperature gradients that there's cutoff lines beyond which that's when you want help. But there's a lot of things that you can do up to that point, and by and large, like 99% of people will be able to manage their fever without additional assistance. Commonly people will think, well, it's a fever, maybe I just need to get them cold. And so they'll stick people like in ice baths or things like that. That's not actually a great approach, because then you actually start shivering and it can increase the internal body temperature. So that's not the desired method. There are regions of the body that can help you to cool a person down relatively quickly. Our axilla, so your armpit, and the groin are 2 regions where you can actually take moist, cool towels, not necessarily ice, but place them there. They'll get warm pretty quickly if they have a pretty consistent temperature, and just keep replacing those. There's a lot of circulation there, and as you chill some of the circulation, the temperature will come down. You can also do the same thing at the base of the skull with a moist, cold towel. There's certain essential oils that I've found to be very useful for the treatment of viruses, bacteria, and fever subsequent to those. And those are lavender, tea tree, and white pine. I've found all of those to be very helpful. Also a geranium. And you just put a drop of those into some cold ice water, and then you stick a towel in there and kind of sop that up, and you can place that on the forehead, in the armpit, in the groin, behind the neck. That's a great way to cool things down, and the individual may not even need some of the pharmaceutical intervention. But I also don't want you to be afraid of the pharmaceutical intervention. Now, when you're working with infants and children, you really don't want to use aspirins. But you can use safely for most children, unless your pediatrician or physician has told you otherwise for that individual. Tylenol and ibuprofen are generally accepted as fever-reducing agents. And certainly as you get older, you can use some Tylenol and ibuprofen. But again, don't nip the fever in the bud. Don't like turn the thing off before it has a chance to do its work. And so you might have 101 degree fever for 8 to 10 hours. And you might want to turn that off so that they can sleep through the night. But sometimes people will spike a fever mid-sleep cycle. So it's good if you have another individual around you that can kind of monitor these things. I love some of the inner ear thermometers, or even some of the distant thermometers that you can just hold over the forehead, because then you're not disturbing that individual. They can get some sleep while you're monitoring them and making sure that they're within parameters that are safe for them. So the take-home message there is recognize that hydration, using cold towels, not getting into ice baths, application of the cold towels in body regions that are highly vascularized that tend to hold heat are all things that you can do prior to reaching for medications, and then use the medications as your backup. And you'll knock out 99% of your fevers quite well that way. If one is protracted and it's going on for more than 2 days, you want to reach out and get some medical assistance and let your doctor know what you've been doing and what those symptoms are. And you might need something else. There are times when people need to reach for an antibiotic if it's a bacterial infection, so don't shy away from that. But I just want to empower you and let you know that there are things that you can do at home prior to reaching out for help in that sense. We all get fevers, and everyone will at certain times in their life. You go into it already prepared. Have some of these essential oils on hand. Make sure that you know that, okay, I'm not going to stick them in a bathtub full of ice, but I am going to get a little tray of ice, put some water in that, and I'm going to sop up some towels. Doing those types of things in advance and knowing where your kit is can alleviate a lot of stress. Make sure you have batteries in your thermometer. Be prepared for these things, because they will happen. And as you go into stressful situations in a state of preparation, you're going to feel better for it, and the person that you're caring for is going to feel better for it. And that's an awesome feeling when you help another individual. Have a great day.